to this edition of Now You Novi. You got to say it with me, Rick. Now you Novi. I'm with my great friend, one of my favorite humans, Rick Meader, the city's landscape architect. How's it going, Rick?
Good. Thank you. I didn't know I felt rated so highly. Thank you.
Yes, I love you, Rick.
And I feel the same way. Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure. You know, one of the things I appreciate most about you is that you love your job, your passion for what you do. I'll put it that way. The passion that you have for what you do is really outstanding. And I think it really helps me to further appreciate my job because of the way that you appreciate what you do for a living. And, I mean, I see you all the time out in the field, out in the weeds, so to speak.
It's true.
Doing your thing, man. And so what's up? What's been going on lately? What do you have going on?
Well, we're planning for the spring's tree plantings, and that's going to happen. We do tree plantings along streets and in parks every spring and fall. And we use the city's tree fund for that. And then we're planning for invasive species removals. First, we're gonna have a garlic pull that the city people can participate in. Hopefully they will. It's a good thing for kids even. That's on our Arbor Day celebration, right. April 26th. And then we're planning for more buckthorn removals and Phragmites killing in the fall and winter of this year.
So let's backtrack a little bit. You talked about planting trees. Are you talking about in the right-of-way throughout the city and in the parks?
Yes. So the street trees are in the right-of-way, and that's managed by Keith Salowich, our forestry asset manager. And then we also plant a bunch of trees and shrubs in parks. So we use it to enhance habitat and to make a good look for the parks and to fill in gaps where things have died, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we are a Tree City USA designee.
Yep.
But sometimes we get a little pushback because, unfortunately, as road construction happens and different projects to maintain the roads or the sidewalks, sometimes trees have to be removed. And so we get the pushback that we're cutting down all the trees. I don't think that people know, if you look at the city from a drone shot, from a bird's eye view, how full of foliage the city it really is. We
do a good job, and we are fortunate to have the tree fund to give us a lot of money to plant new trees when we have to, and to fill in gaps where they've arisen.
And you talked about invasive species.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, buckthorn. I know buckthorn is a big one for you.
It's and one of my nemesis.
Yeah. What is buckthorn, and what is the problem with buckthorn?
Buckthorn is a small tree. It originates from Eurasia. It's not a terribly beautiful tree. It has green leaves. People brought it over here to serve as a cover, serve as a hedge between homes, because it keeps its leaves long in the fall, and it leaves out early in the spring. It's already leafing out. And the problem is that the berries that it puts out, these birds eat them. They're not very nutritious for the birds, and they spread them around, and they perch in a nice oak tree, poop the berries basically, and then you have a crowd of these new buckthorns coming in, and they shade out the ground so the new oaks can't arise. So they shade out good trees, they shade out wildflowers, they do a lot of bad things without any real benefit to the environment.
So how do you go about removing them? At one point you had a buckthorn removal program for subdivisions. So how do you go about removing them? Is it easy to do? And will you be bringing that program back?
Right. It's not hard to do. The bigger the tree, the harder it is. But there's different methods you can do to do it. Smaller trees, you can easily cut with loppers. And then what you should always do if you're going to cut down a buckthorn is cut it and then paint it immediately with herbicide, concentrated herbicide like Roundup or Garlon. And you got to do it because otherwise they sprout right back. You got to kill the cutting. Just removes the growth, and it keeps away the berries from being formed, but it doesn't kill the tree, so they'll sprout right back. So you got to treat it with that. And little guys you can pull out. They pull pretty easy if they're very small. Bigger ones you can chop with a hacksaw or power chainsaw, but you still got to do the chemicals to get rid of them.
Is it easy to identify?
It's pretty easy. Yeah, they're pretty distinctive. Especially it's easy in the fall, because they're the only ones that still have their leaves that are green. Same thing with honeysuckle. It's another invasive that we take care of. They keep their leaves green much later than most natives. So if you go in the woods in the fall, you drive around in November and you see a nice green layer about 10 to 15 feet above in a forest, that's all buckthorn and honeysuckle. It's not anything that we want to have in those woods.
And
So
so what other invasives? I know Phragmites is always a big thing, and
yeah,
burning the Phragmites and that sort of
yeah.
thing. So tell me about the Phragmites.
Sure. So Phragmite is the tall grass or giant reed, actually, it is. And it's an invasive variety of a species. There actually are native Phragmites australis. There's different genotypes. And the native genotype is not at all invasive. It just kind of pops up here and there, little clusters that aren't very aggressive. This is the European genotype that has come over, and it just spreads and takes over everything. So that's a different method of killing than the buckthorn, because it's not woody, it's grass. It's a grassy type thing. So we have to spray it with herbicides, and then the burning or the cutting doesn't kill the plant. It just basically removes the growth that was there before once it's dead. So then the following years, you're getting chemicals on live plants versus dead plants, because you just to save on your chemicals and be more effective. So the burning just takes care of the old growth. It doesn't kill it.
So you mentioned a little bit about how the invasive species sort of make it more difficult for the native species, and I want to talk a little bit about native species and why that's important to have
Okay.
native gardens and native species of plants in our neighborhoods, in our community, and at your houses.
So there's native and non-native. Native is basically something that's occurred here naturally that hasn't been brought here by mankind. Not all natives are bad news, not all non-natives are bad news. For example, dandelions, they're bad for your lawn, but they really don't cause any problem in the natural habitats. And a lot of non-natives are food things that we eat. But the invasive non-natives are the problem, and that is because they can take over a habitat that was formerly a natural wildlife habitat, where there are wildflowers like trilliums and wild geraniums, this kind of thing. They have a good diversity of flowers and flowering times that the pollinators and different animals can use. Whereas when you have something like the garlic mustard or the buckthorn or the Phragmites come in, they just take over the area, and those plants can't survive anymore. Therefore, the animals that depend on them also can't survive. So invasive species have a real problem. It's not just a matter of aesthetics. They have a real negative impact on the environment and habitats and animals.
And so what are some of the benefits of a native species?
Sure. So what a lot of, for example, insects have developed over thousands of years a coexistence with plants. Their plants have, they're just sitting there ready to be eaten. So they've developed chemicals and things in there.
Is that what they're doing? They're just waiting to be eaten?
Yeah, they're just sitting there. That's all their purpose is, to be eaten. And so they have developed over time chemical defenses or physical defenses against being eaten. So along the line, the animals or insects, caterpillars, for example, have developed defenses against some of the chemicals in those plants. So, for example, milkweeds have developed alkaloids that are poisonous to a lot of animals and caterpillars and stuff. But the monarchs and other insects too have developed defenses against those particular chemicals. So they can eat the milkweed, other plants can't, or other animals can't. But that happens with all different species all around the world. So there's certain plants that certain animals can eat, certain that they can't. So if you take away a chunk of plants that the animals can eat and they can't eat anything else, you take away the food source for those animals. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's important to have native plants. They have a diversity of food sources for things. They do it for a variety of different purposes. They flower at different times, so the pollinators can get them throughout the year rather than just at one time a year. So, for example, you have Japanese knotweed can take over a really big spot. It's another invasive. It can take over a really big spot, and it has a ton of flowers, and it's good for bees and everything else, but they bloom one time a year. And if they take over that spot that was formerly occupied by plants that flowered throughout the year in that spot, you've taken away that food source through the year and for just one time a year.
So you mentioned the milkweed. So monarch
It's hard to say,
butterfly.
isn't
Yeah, it is.
it?
Monarch butterfly larvae
Yeah.
can only eat the milkweed. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct. You put them on a piece of lettuce, they won't eat
Neither will I.
it.
So, just for an example, we have native gardens planted.
Hmm.
There's one garden over at First Park,
Yep,
right? There's one at Meadowbrook Commons.
that's right.
Are there any others?
Um, we have, there's one in Tollgate Farms, I believe,
Okay.
which I haven't spent too much time there. And then we are going to create a prairie at the Northwest Park in the southern area that's open now. It's kind of old field. We're going to kill the old field because it's dominated by certain plants. We want to have more diverse species. So this year, the whole year, we're going to be killing that area. It's going to look tremendous. But in the fall, we're going to seed it with a diversity of plant prairie species, including milkweed. So we're going to have a lot more area for butterflies to come and get food and that kind of thing.
And that's going to be at the new Novi Northwest Park.
New Northwest Park on 12 Mile Road, east
Nice.
of Napier.
Yes, nice. So, for people who want an example of native gardens, check out the one over at First Park. It's a native garden that attracts butterflies. Even in the center median here at the Civic Center, there's native plantings as well, right?
Yep.
In the parking lot. And then over at Meadowbrook Commons. And then we have a great article coming out in the next Engage magazine about the gardens of Willowbrook subdivision.
Oh, cool. Yeah, they've been doing some good work
They've
over
done
there.
some great work over there, planting native gardens all throughout their subdivision on the islands that were pretty much unused. So we talk about the whole backstory there and how they got to be. There's some great pictures. And you can see, actually, while I was there interviewing Monica, I could see like monarch butterflies flying around.
Yeah.
Never seen as many monarch butterflies in my life, but here they are.
They're also good at the school at Thornton Creek is going to put in a pollinator garden to replace an old kind of rundown garden that they had.
So let's talk about a volunteer opportunity. You mentioned garlic mustard and the garlic mustard pull. So Josh and I had a funny joke yesterday. Is it is it mustard greens that taste like garlic? What is garlic?
You can eat garlic mustard.
You can. It's not poisonous.
It's not poisonous. It was brought over as an herb.
Okay.
It's kind of. I've never eaten it, frankly, but I know some people put it in salads. You can eat it. It's not poisonous at all. It's just most people.
So
don't want to.
what is the problem with garlic mustard then?
It's like a lot of invasive. Just covers over a woodland, and it'll just take over where native. It blooms in the spring. It gets about this tall, and it has little white flowers on the top. And individual plants, just like any non-native plant, any individual plant is not a problem. It's when it takes over an area that's where the problem is, and it can coat a ground floor of a woodland. And so the native wildflowers just don't have a chance to bloom. Plus, they put out a chemical, it's called allelopathy. They put out a chemical that actually deters or stunts the growth of other plants around it. So it makes it a competitive advantage for itself.
That's rude.
Yeah, it is rude. Yeah, so pulling's an easy thing. And they actually are coming out with its natural habitat is in Switzerland. I saw one this summer growing there. And so we've gone, they have a biocontrol, which is some weevils that feed just on that. And they're working on, in Canada, they're working on biocontrol so it'll actually knock it back. It won't completely eliminate it, but it'll knock it back so it doesn't have the negative impact as much.
But here, we're just going to be pulling them.
Here we're pulling, yeah. Hopefully we'll get the biocontrol at some point, but we're pulling.
So is that anybody of any age can volunteer for that?
Yeah, it's great for kids. Kids love it. They're, because they're short and it's easy. They don't have to bend down to pick it up. They're just right there. And then we put them in garbage bags, throw it away, and it's better for the habitat.
So that's going to be part of our Arbor Day, Earth Day, Arbor Day celebration week, April 21st through the 26th at Lakeshore Park.
Yes, and the pool's actually on the 26th.
And the pool is on the 26th, which is the big celebration day.
Yes.
But there are things happening throughout the week. So for anybody that wants any information, they can go to cityofnovi.org/Arbor Day. We made it real easy.
Very
and
good.
all the information is there. There's contact information there. I believe Madison and her team, Madison and John over in Parks, are putting together the week. And they
We're
have
having some nature walks.
some
during that
nature
week.
walks, bird watching,
Yeah.
a few other things. I think there's an eco quiz or something like
Yeah,
that.
they're gonna have little signs around asking questions about trees and things that grow in the. I think it's mostly in Lakeshore Park.
Yeah, there's a nature hike.
Yep.
So it's going to be a fun week. So everybody take a minute, check out cityofnovi.org/Arbor Day. When the next issue of Engage comes out, check out the Gardens of Willowbrook article. And actually, I'll give you a hint that the article itself is a teaser. There's a bigger article on living online somewhere. So,
Oh, that's so exciting.
yeah, so follow the QR code if you don't mind. I won't say who wrote it, but it's pretty good. Thanks, Rick. Anything else you want to
Thank
add?
you. No, I there has been a lot of interest in this in the city of Novi about native plants and trying to do pollinator gardens in their own yards and that kind of thing. It's really exciting to see, and it's encouraging. If people ever have questions about pollinator gardens or butterfly gardens, contact me. I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, there's a huge interest in nature, natural or native species, woodlands and all that stuff, and it's actually been growing since I've been here for the last 8 years. So that's really good. So
Yeah.
people can reach out to Rick Meader, the city's landscape architect. His contact information is on our website, cityofnovi.org, in the staff directory page. So yeah, anything else you want to add, Rick?
No, I appreciate it. I really appreciate people that are showing interest, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate you again. You're one of my favorite humans. Well, thanks for being on the show. And can you say it with me?
Now you Novi.
See you next time, everybody.